Hi there, this is Alexander Hall for Viva Voce, week 5 of the FMP term. So, seeing this is my final Viva of the for the project, I will be talking to you about the final show, the dress rehearsal and the tech rehearsal, and all the intense rehearsals before that. But I'm going to be going over a few other things as well to go along with that. So first of all, I'm going to go over my first question of the week, which is, what have I done this week in my project sessions? So firstly, I'm going to go over what happened on the 18th of May, which was the last Friday before the show. So on that week, what we had to do was make sure everyone was attending that rehearsal. So making sure everyone was there on time. And from that point, just making sure that Gary can see all the different scenes that we had been looking at for a very long time, making sure that they were perfect, making sure that they were slick and perfect and everything. So we looked at quite a few scenes that we've done before, like scene 13 and 15, which was the one where Marcus has a fight with Harry. And we looked at quite a few others, including the one where Billy and Jake pass the ball to each other, and then Aaron and Marcus go past, and of course there's Harry as well, and then Greg and Patrick going fire, and then Billy just starts to have second thoughts about Jake, and then walks with Patrick and Greg. So yeah, on that anyway. So that we looked at those, and then in the afternoon of that Friday, we did like a full run through of the show. So making sure that we were completely familiar with the whole show, making sure that we didn't have our books on us whatsoever. So including backstage where we had to look over our lines, because if you look at your lines before you go on stage, that will just make you forget. So making sure everything was memorised, including your scene, what scenes you come in, making sure that you know the whole flow of the whole show. So we made sure of that, and then of course we had Leanne, who came to have a look at our full run through of the show that Friday afternoon to give us like feedback, give us a bit more insight of what we need to make sure we don't do next week, which is our big rehearsal time, which gets more intense because we don't have much time after that. So yeah, we had that to think about. Then on Tuesday, well, I was going to go over Monday, but unfortunately that was problematic with our first session on Monday, because unfortunately not a lot of people turned up to that rehearsal. And we couldn't actually rehearse what we wanted to rehearse, so we had to just not do that rehearsal in the first place. So we all chose to do independent study instead, because if people don't turn up, it makes it difficult to actually rehearse. So we had to cancel that rehearsal. But on Tuesday, we did a full run through, unfortunately not in the theatre, because on Tuesday we had, Girls Like That, the show that the other year ones were doing for their FMP, they had to use the theatre because they had to rehearse in there for their dress run and probably their tech run as well. So we had to just use another room, I think it was EP3, and just do the full run through there, apply all the notes that we've been taking over the last few days, making sure that we were familiar with everything that we were asked to improve on after Friday. Then on Wednesday, after Girls Like That had done their show, after that show was done, we could use the whole theatre for our tech run. We did that, and then on the Thursday, which was our show night, we had the full dress run. So we had a couple of run throughs of the show before we did it to the audience. So So yeah, so the tech run was on Wednesday, and then on Thursday we just did a couple of dress runs with the clothing that we had, making sure that everyone had the clothes on them, so we didn't have to have people last minute going to Primark, etc. But yeah, what research have I done independently throughout this week? So the one main one that I had to choose from was comparing and contrasting the FMP with the Savannah case, because the Savannah case that was documented on ABC News, that was the original thing that we were going to be doing, which we were going to contrast with our FMP, which Gary created the script to and created like the filming footage. So that was pretty much our inspiration to create our version of the case and create our own version of different characters, not making the characters the same. So what I had to do was I compared, look at the things that were similar to each one of them, ones that were different. So ones that I found that were similar with the Savannah case and the FMP was that they were all set in a party, and it was like a high school college party where everyone knew each other from school, everyone knew each other from college, and it was pretty much like an open party for anyone who was from that particular building and particular school. So that was one of the similarities I found, and also the other thing that I found that was similar with the FMP and the Savannah case was that there was interviewers interviewing Savannah / Lola, and then of course there was Cameron / Jake, who were being interviewed as well. So that was something else that I could find the similarity to with both of them. Something that was different. The one thing that I found different was that the Savannah case was a documentary. It wasn't a production. It wasn't a play or anything. It was just like a clear documentary that was made specifically to the ABC News, which is American Broadcasting Corporation. And so that was something that was then spread around on YouTube, and then of course on the ABC website, and it's been there permanently ever since the case happened. So yeah, that was a documentary, but our one was a play. So it wasn't like we had to pretend that we were being interviewed or such. We weren't, apart from the fact that Jake and Lola had their voiceovers where the interviewers had to be recorded in a speaker to talk to each other when everyone else was quiet as the actors had to just stay still and not move whilst those voiceovers were happening. But yeah, those were the things that I found that I could pick out. So yeah. How did I apply this in class? So how this was applied in class was, of course, there was the talks of the news reports that were being made. That was something that was added on only during the show week, because Gary wanted to see how it would sound if there were news reports being used in the background whilst the show was going, so that it could kind of blend in with how controversial, how much media attention the event had, and just how much pressure was on both Jake and Lola after the event had happened in the party, and just how it became like a bigger story than what they thought it would become, and how much it sparked a bad impression on them, sparked a bad impression on their parents and their friends and everyone else who was related to them. And yeah, Yeah. So what practical problems did we come across this week? So I've mentioned already the Monday morning extra rehearsal that we had left that Joe could help us rehearsing. Unfortunately for him, he had to do a tech run with the cast of Girls Like that week, so he couldn't stay in for long. And we had a lot of absences from our cast, so that just became problematic for whether we could actually rehearse or not. So after a while, we just gave up and didn't want to rehearse, because there's no point if you don't have your 100% cast, or if you only have something like 80 or 90% of your cast, it doesn't help. And especially if one of your main roles don't come in, it makes it harder to rehearse, makes it harder to remember your blockings when other people aren't around, and it doesn't seem the same, and people don't become a lot more serious when others aren't actually in rehearsal. So it's so important that everyone actually goes to the rehearsals that they're required for, especially if they've been given a list of what rehearsals they're needed for and what rehearsals they're not needed for. And if you miss the ones that you're needed for, it just it puts a lot of difficulty on those who have actually bothered to turn up. The other practical problem we had was Gary. On Wednesday on our tech run, first thing in the morning, he was running late, and he was something like 3 hours late because of the M25. No surprise. Yeah, pretty much. So what happened is, unfortunately, we couldn't have him directing the tech design, the people who were working on the tech, who were working in the technical area. So that was like Emma and Leanne who were working there. So we just had to go through our scenes and just work with it without the use of lighting. And then after, when Gary did arrive, we only had a very small limited time to work through the whole show and tech everything, which became really hectic, and it did tire out the rest of the cast, because some of the cast I could notice were tiring out. The energy was dropping for them because, you know, they were being given too many hours just to go through the whole show and tech everything that was required in the small amount of times, and it was just too intense for a lot of people, and people just wanted to go home. But yeah, that was the real issue at that time. So because Gary was late, it made it harder for us to get everything done at the right time when we wanted to, and it just got really hectic at that point. And knowing directors, they can be real perfectionists. They want things done at that particular time, and if it's not done by that time, it makes it harder for them to not sleep well, if you know what I mean. But yeah, did we create anything new? Well, on my side of it, yes, I did create something new. I had to create a different trait to Billy, especially when he was leading his friends out of the party at 3:15 in the morning, when everyone was drunk and they had to go home, and I was of course drunk because I drank too much, and I had to go out and try and be a bit too theatrical and saying, "Oh, my pleasure, I bid you good evening." So I didn't do it exactly like that. I just wanted to see if you can notice from the camera angle, because it's not great. But what I had to do was I had to bow, a bit like if I was trying to be kind of royal or trying to be a king, going, "I bid you good evening." Yeah, you could see it probably on the video, if it ever shows on YouTube or even on Planet Eastream if you can get access to it. But yeah, so what I had to do was I had to completely bow, try and be as melodramatic as I could, just to make myself look really drunk and really stupid. And, you know, especially as everyone else, like I think Sam, started going, why do we have so many weird friends? I just had to do something which was weird that would encourage him to say it. So yeah, that was one of the things that I had to create to make it sound better and more appealing. And yeah, so what was the transition like for me to go from stage to film? So during this week, working up to the show, it's the first time I actually got to see a full run through of me doing it, being part of any film footage, and for that I started looking quite clearly at all the different strengths I had as being a screen actor and the weaknesses I had being a screen actor, and it helped a lot to kind of look at the contrasts that I have in terms of my skill as a stage actor and the skills I have as a screen actor, and trying to apply all the different parts that some of the things I didn't do well when I was doing screen acting, and one of the ones that I felt that I could have done better when doing screen acting was, be in the right place at the right time at different points. So, for example, when Lola was being taken out of the party room, which Jake and Aaron and Harry, I think, were taking her out of the room, and I was just watching. I was at different sides when we had to take her from one angle and then rewind, and then I was on another side, which I shouldn't have been, but there's nothing I can do now. But that's something to remember for the future, and realise that if I want to do it professionally, I need to make sure that I am so clear about where I was exactly at different points, and make sure that I have a good memory, not just for like blockings, but also trying to remember exactly what I was doing. So making sure that everything is slick and nothing looks wrong, nothing looks unprofessional. That's really what I'm trying to go for. But yeah, I think one of the good things that I had was I had good focus, and also I tried to stay as characteristic as possible throughout the whole film footage. So making sure I acted as drunk as possible, trying to stay in character. But I think the other thing that I felt that I probably could have done better is maybe try and stay really solidly focused, because I think there were a few moments where I forgot what I was doing at one point, because it was all improvised, and sometimes if you have something prepared it makes it easier, but because this was improvised I had to just work out something on the spot. So it's all an experience for me, and I think I haven't done something like this before, but hopefully I can learn from it, and if I ever get the chance to do screen acting again, I can apply it for next time. But yeah, I have to say I had a wonderful experience. On the bright side, yes, it was an absolutely amazing experience to do a play like Under the Influence, which we named it that week, which Matt Houston named it as that week, and he created the poster, created the program and everything. And it was such a great experience to work in a professional screen set, start to look at all the different comparisons of screen acting and stage acting, and thinking about what I can do when it comes to screen acting, and look at all the differences, and making sure that you don't get too over theatrical when it comes to being a screen actor, making sure that it stays as realistic. And one of the things and some of the things that you can, of course, say that apply to both is also just create your own character, which is applied to both screen and stage, and just learning so much out of all the research I've done. So learning how to learn lines in quick succession, making sure you're off book in one day. So working at that intense level. Looking at the video of Michael Caine teaching screen acting to some stage actors, trying to give them that difference of what it's like to be a screen actor compared to a stage actor, and looking at how much less is more actually applies so much to screen acting. Stage acting, you can maybe use less is more, but sometimes if you use more in stage acting, it might not make you the greatest actor, but it depends on how you see it. But less is more definitely applies to screen acting, because you just have to stay solid and still and clear as well. But on the other hand, I have to say I had a fantastic experience working with a fantastic director, a fantastic writer who made a really structured play, which was really well written. Actually, I felt that the message came across really well, especially to young teenage girls who could easily get vulnerable to boys who just can't control themselves when they're out at the party, get drunk so easily. And even teenagers, knowing teenagers, they can be really quite foolish and naive about how they feel they should live their lives, and how stubborn they can be towards their parents, thinking that they can do anything and be on top of the world if they really want to. But I think, it's a great play, and to be quite honest with you, if it was ever to become commercial, I would definitely want to do it on tour if the opportunity ever came, So who knows? Fingers crossed. The chances are it might never happen, but if it does happen, who knows? But I would love to do that play again, and I think I owe a lot to Gary for his commitment and his enthusiasm to the cast, and making a great show out of it, and making a great show, great sound effects, having some great characters who would really fit the play so well, putting in many different controversies that could give the audience an opportunity to guess for themselves. So of course, with how the play ended, how it didn't end with one person without us knowing who actually won the court case, so it was all up to the audience to decide who did. And so that it could be like a questionable ending then, Jake was guilty, end of. It wasn't like that. It was, they're all in court, who was guilty, ends there. So it gives it a bit more of a questionable ending. But you know what? I absolutely loved this. Loved working on this project. This project was probably one of the best ones I've done at Escott. Definitely the best one I've done at Escott best one I've done at Escott by far. And I think I'm definitely hoping that there can be more that can beat that level. And of course, try and do one which will add flavour with screen acting and stage acting, because I want to learn more about screen acting, because that's one of the things that I want to. Hopefully, that could be another thing to add to my record and CV for the future. But yeah, this is Alexander Hall for Viva Voce Week 5, and it's my final Viva for this FMP project. So yeah, hope you've enjoyed these Vivas, and give me a thumbs up, and hope to see you soon. Bye.